Welcome. Lovely to see you both. And we have a lovely panel as well of Karen and John. So I'm Terry Moyden, and I'm part of the festival team, leading on the communication side of life. But I've always been quite passionate about education, and I would have become a drama teacher actually, if I'd gone that way, but I went to corporate land instead. And yet, what we have on our panel is the full shilling with Karen, who's head of science at the Guernsey Ladies College in Guernsey, and John Wood, who's a professor of design at Goldsmiths University in London, and also professor of practice, setting up a new meta design centre in Wales for the University of Wales. So you've got some good people here to listen to you. And what we're going to do is just first say well done for being here, because you have done a lot of hard work to develop your idea and proposal, and we have selected it for that reason. So that's a yes, a win already. And then what we're going to do is let you go through the idea and ask you a few questions, and then let you know what's going to happen next. So let me not wibble on, and you're here because we want you here. Just remember that. So relax, enjoy yourself, and tell us about your great idea.
Okay, so I'll be sharing my screen. So
course, yes,
I might have to
enabled it, but I shall enable it for you now. You're lovely.
Has it been enabled?
Yes.
All right. So is it okay if I just keep my camera off till the time I'm right? Okay. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So please let me know if my screen is visible.
Yes, could see it. You could perhaps make it bigger. Yeah.
Yes. All right.
Perfect. Ah, yes, lovely.
So all right. So just let me know if it's okay to start, and in just
start when you're ready. You carry on now. You can begin.
All right. So I'll start. So a very good afternoon to everybody. We'd be presenting the idea of Project Ruhani, which has been selected under education. So here I go. W.B. Yeats once said, "Education is not the filling of a pail, but the lighting of a fire." In India, schools were seen as sacred places where children blossomed into beautiful individuals. Fast forwarding to the 20th century, our education systems are characterized by rote learning and lengthy syllabus. In such a situation, the youth today finds itself emotionally and psychologically empty. We have been victims of such a situation too. There is nothing more vulnerable, yet nothing more revolutionary than a child's mind. Most importantly, nothing more transformational about what a child can bring into the future. The children in a post-lockdown world will be tattered by the trauma of a pandemic. Having been locked behind doors and screens, what they would need now more than ever is an empathetic environment that brings them closer to the spirit of humanity. After a year of working with young adults in the field of mental health, we realized that this problem needed a sustainable, foundational solution. Envisioning to reclaim the lost meaning of education, Project Ruhani decided to step in. Children in India needed more time to be just children, to do what their age demands them to do, to play, to talk freely and unashamed, and simply live the ripest, most enjoyable age of their lives. We believe that childhood is the scaffold of tomorrow. When this scaffold crumbles, the tomorrow is weak. So we decided to equip children today to deal better with their problems, emotions, and disarming thoughts, so that we can build a brighter, stronger tomorrow.
Therefore, our proposal is as follows. We seek to introduce the idea of social and emotional learning, SCL, through our program in classrooms. The SCL program, following the Cassell framework, will equip children in 5 main competencies, which are self-awareness, social awareness, relationship management, self-management, and decision-making. Equipping students with these core competencies at a young age, according to Cassell, results in improved classroom behavior and increased ability to manage stress and depression, and better attitudes about themselves, others, and school. A separate 2015 study by the American Journal of Public Health determined that implementing social emotional learning curricula at the kindergarten level was connected to favorable outcomes in young adulthood, including lessened criminal activity, educational achievement, employability, and good mental health. The program features are as follows. Through psycho-educative lessons, we wish to talk about a variety of topics which often go unnoticed by schools. We also wish to include extracurricular programs like plantation, rainwater harvesting, and gardening in schools with a vision of tackling the climate crisis from a young age. Additionally, plants have the added benefit of lowering anxiety levels, stress levels, and increasing attentiveness, memory, productivity, and creativity. These programs would also include telling them why to reduce the usage of plastic and ask for alternative, economically viable, yet environmentally sustainable solutions. To make children more confident, we wish to introduce peer circles in schools, which would be small groups of 7 to 10 children who would be involved in not just sharing of feelings, but also of solution driven ideas on the 17 sustainable goals. These circles would promote divergent thinking, healthy discourse, and prove to be a pool of new and budding ideas. We recognize that each child has varied needs, and each child needs to craft the future just as equally as the next. This includes children with disabilities. Thus, we envision to include special programs for children with learning disabilities and neurodevelopmental disorders to promote a sensitive, inclusive, and safe school environment. This revolutionary program would be carried out and made sustainable by training the teachers of the schools. This training would include a lucid account of how important it is to deal with one's own emotions and thoughts, an understanding of SCL, and the implementation of our wellness program as a whole. The same program will be replicated in low-income schools. Those children are literate but are often deprived of a holistic, all-round development that children of the privileged community are otherwise blessed with.
To measure and quantify our progress, we would be conducting pre and post surveys of school children, teachers, and parents to better understand their current and post needs. Self-reports, questionnaires, and focus group discussions would also help us document the same. We believe that change begins young. As young change makers, we have that fire that is required to elicit a radical transformation in the education systems of our society. Our children will be the torch bearers of our community of people who are empathetic and understanding, creating ripple effects for a society with lesser crime, lesser pain, and more joy.
Thank you.
Wow. Impressive stuff, ladies. That was really very enjoyable. Thank you. So I was going to say, how do you know that this is wanted, and you're going to do a needs analysis? So well done for that, preempting my first question. But I would say this is for teachers and a system of programs. So you've looked into if it's happening at all in any schools within India or beyond, have you? What sort of research have you done so far?
Regarding SEL, so we've
Well,
looked
regarding
into
this particular sort of well-being and introducing this to teachers as a training program.
right. So in India, we don't really have, so as we said, the problem in India is that our classrooms are characterized by rote learning and lengthy syllabus, right? So our teachers are not really trained when it comes to looking at our social and emotional needs, right? So they are
In
trained as
India,
teachers through a B.Ed program, but they aren't taught to deal with the emotional and psychological issues that a child might have as a child. So
absolutely.
we thought that it would be better if we train the teachers when it comes to dealing with problems of mental health, because that is something that requires training, and you can't just do that with the normal education that teachers usually go through.
So it doesn't exist at the minute.
So the school system is currently structured like it majorly focus on the academic aspect, like core subjects such as mathematics, English, science, social studies. All of that is included, but the social and emotional aspect of it, overall personality development, how to manage your emotions, relationships, that is nowhere included in our system right now.
Oh, interesting. So let me bring in other members of the panel who wants to jump in first. Is that you, Karen?
Yeah, so very interesting to hear what you had to say. My school at the moment is hoping to gain a Wellbeingness Award. And as teachers in our school, we're all being trained up into well-being in terms of, I've done extra training for mental health as well for the youngsters. So I can certainly, I understand very much where you're coming from and what you've said. And you've done an amazing job in terms of researching everything you need to do. Everything that I know is needed for such a program, you've covered. So my question is actually, in order to, I think, establish this amazing program that you put forward, you are going to need help. And the first question I have is, you are going to need government help. You're going to need someone in the education department to take this on board, to say, right, this is a really good thing, we now need to do a program. So have you approached anyone at a governmental level to say, what do you think of this? Is this something that maybe our government might take on board?
So at a government level, the problem is that approaching the government as university students often gets difficult. So we were first thinking of implementing this in private schools. So in India, we have government and private schools. So when we kind of approach principals of private schools, it gets easier for us to first implement a program like this in private schools. So for that, we are thinking of having a panel of mental health professionals with us who would help us kind of in this entire process, and they would guide us. And then we'd get into private schools and implement it there first. And side by side, we're definitely planning to, approach state governments and also government as a whole to help us out with this program, because the government is trying to look into mental health through its new policy of the new education policy in India. So we are hoping that that would help us out in implementing this program in our country.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Does this exist? Have you spoken to these professionals, and have they said, we're on board with this idea, we're interested? Have you got that far?
So ma'am, we have been speaking to certain SCL experts, and we have been having conversations with them regarding the feasibility of a program and the implementation therein. And we have got a very favorable response, and they have also given us their advice related to whatever we have curated and whatever our idea is. And that's what that we are trying to inculcate in our model also, with their help.
I see. And you obviously need quite a group of people to help you in this. Could you just maybe put a little bit more detail into the proposal of training teachers? How would you go about actually training teachers? Who would do this? What kind of things would you be training them in?
So after we do the needs assessment, we're going to find out the exact competencies that the teachers and the students and the parents think that the students should be equipped in. And then with the help of mental health professionals, we'll be curating that program. So once the program is created, our mental health professionals would be teaching these teachers, and these teachers would be trained in these competencies that we think the students need to understand. And before we train the teachers in these competencies and to look after the mental health of their students, we would also be training them and helping them out with coping techniques of their own, because you cannot fill a cup until yours is full. So that would be happening. So they would first be trained in coping mechanisms of their own, and then they would be trained in all of these competencies that we're talking about. And after that, they'd be trained into how to implement this program. That is, what are the benefits of it and what are the problems that they might face? I mean, what could a child come up to you with? So all of this would be looked after by mental health professionals itself.
Could I squeeze in one more question, Terry?
Go on, as long as John gets a word. Yeah.
Sorry.
No, go for it.
It's that there are countries governments who are really buying into wellbeing systems, and the UK is one such government. Have you spoken to any other countries who have already implemented such a scheme so that you can see what's needed?
So actually, very surprisingly, yes, we did get in touch with an SEL educator from America. So she has done this in India as well, but right now she's based in America. So we did ask her how things are going in America. And I personally have found a lot of organizations and a lot of people who have been implementing the SEL program in the USA. So I did look through all of it, and I realized that because of the cultural gap that we have in India and countries like UK and USA, there is a lot more that would go into implementing this in India. because there are a few topics that we want to deal with when it comes to SEL, like, sex education and gender equality, which is a taboo in India and very difficult to talk about, but we feel it's very important to include in our program. So we did speak to them about all of this, and they did give us advice. They said that first go into the needs analysis, find out what parents are comfortable with, because everything needs to go step by step. So we've done that part of it as well.
And while researching on other organizations, we found that there are many budding initiatives related to SEL abroad, but very few initiatives in India. Like, there are very sparse here. And I mean, this is because the major thing is that, as Ashna mentioned, mental health is still a taboo here, and it will take time to penetrate into the system. So that's why we felt that the prevalence was more outside.
Thank you. Thank you.
Well, nice. Thanks. And John.
Thank you. Yes, that was wonderful. I have too many questions, but let me start with one, which is really, in a way, it could be beyond what you've done, because this isn't a criticism of what you've done, but I think we have inherited a kind of individual-based learning system. So it's generally focused on the individual learning. But what it seems that what I read into this is a fantastic potential for team learning, or certainly for interpersonal emotional well-being. And I'm just wondering how you came up with your number of 7 to 10 in your small groups.
So actually, Project Ruhani has been carrying out a concept called Resilience Circle during the lockdown. So here we invited 7 to 8 people to actually just come and talk. So when the number exceeded 10, we started realizing that people started getting uncomfortable. So, we thought that, okay, this is what we've been doing for 3 to 7 months. And just as the number starts exceeding 10, people don't like talking. So we thought that it's also true for adolescents. I mean, it's very difficult to talk for a long period of time, and there are a lot of people in the group who have to go as well. So we thought that a group of 7 to 10 in each class would help people to actually express themselves better, to talk about their feelings better, and it would help them as well to open up to their classmates.
Yes, because I'm thinking, in a way, your self-awareness to social awareness means that you potentially that raises big questions of competence, because in a way you're not trained. The learners are not trained in the way that the teachers would be, but may have really helpful. The empathy side is really important, isn't it? So I'm just wondering how you would manage that if it goes beyond your original model.
So our peer circles that we're talking about, it would also have one facilitator in it.
Okay.
So, it just won't be just children coming together, but we will definitely have one person in it, because even with our experience of resilience circles, there are a lot of times where people break down. And if we are not experienced when it comes to, expressing emotions and things like that, they talk of traumatic experiences that might not be okay with other children. So we will have one facilitator in that way as well, who would be kind of regulating the entire program, making sure that people are very understanding and very empathetic to each other, so that nothing goes wrong in that front.
Thank you. Could I just ask one more question, or is that?
Go on, John.
Just wondering, in your interest in psychology and commerce, whether the issue of neural diversity has come up, the idea that everybody thinks differently and therefore interacts differently, but teamwork really comes out of the richness of those things. Because that's something I'm just thinking in terms of Karen's question about contacting governments and getting sympathy for this, that it may be something to play on. That there would be economic benefits that would come from people learning how to work in teams better.
Absolutely. So, sir, our project also is consisted of a group of students from very diverse backgrounds. So some people are from commerce, I'm from commerce, Ashna is from psychology. We have students from mathematics, statistics, economics, different backgrounds. And so we feel that our strength lies in our diversity, because we have such varied schools of thoughts that come in. So the idea itself strengthens because of those experiences that come together and club together and make the experience more fulfilling.
Brilliant.
Thank you very much.
Well, thank you all. That was amazing. Thank you very much. So we could carry on talking. I mean, honestly, there's so much. And one of my things was like, what really drove you to it? But I think you've shown your passion and reasons for picking this up and running with it, really developing it well. So thanks for that. And what's going to happen next, basically, is we're going to chat about things. And look, we've had a number of proposals, so we need to just come to some agreements, and then we'll share the outcomes of that, hopefully by the end of this week. Okay, so watch your emails. Oh, so you're both at the same college, is that right? That's
Yes, ma'am.
that's lovely. Lovely. Well, really lovely to meet you, and thank you for an excellent presentation.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. It was a pleasure meeting all of you. Bye bye.
Thank you. Thank you for
Bye-bye.
listening.
Bye.
Thank you, everybody. Bye.